Matt got an email that looked exactly like any other email he'd received from Amazon. It was a receipt for a Bluetooth speaker. He didn't remember buying anything, but figured maybe it was something he ordered one night half asleep, or maybe it was something he forgot to cancel. So he clicked. Nothing happened. No weird pop ups, no obvious virus infection. So he didn't think twice about it. But over the next few days, what Matt didn't know was someone was watching. Matt used Gmail, synced across his devices. He kept notes to himself, written in Google Docs, half-finished thoughts, grocery lists, sometimes journal entries. Sometimes he'd write drafts after therapy sessions, things he didn't say out loud, but wanted to remember, things that were extremely private. 12 days after the incident, his therapist forwarded him a strange email. The thing is, Matt never sent it. This week on the Privacy Files, we're breaking down how spyware gets in, how fast your inbox can turn against you, and what happens when your private thoughts become public, even if you yourself never hit send. Because as you're about to find out, it doesn't always take a breach. It happens as fast as a click. Matt wasn't reckless online. It's not even like he was careless. He was just average. He worked operations at a mid-sized logistics firm. His work was spreadsheet heavy and involved process-driven stuff. He'd been remote for the past few years and didn't miss the office one bit. His company issued him a VPN, point-to-site access for internal dashboards and vendor tools. He used it when he had to for work. After work, he shut it off because it felt like it just slowed everything down. Outside of work, his online habits were pretty typical. He utilized Google's integrated ecosystem religiously. Gmail for everything, auto-saved his passwords right in Chrome, used Google Docs and Sheets saved in his Google Drive so he could access it from his computer and his phone on the go. Matt was someone who prioritized convenience to try and make his life easier. He'd soon learn the real price of his perceived convenience. The phishing email came on a Thursday morning. The subject line, Amazon.com order confirmation. It was a $43 Bluetooth speaker. He didn't remember buying it, but he'd been busy lately. Maybe it was that thing he looked at last week, or maybe it was a gift that auto shipped from his saved cart. The email looked clean, not flashy, no typos. The button said view order, and he clicked it without thinking. The link opened slowly, then nothing, just a blank white screen. He figured maybe Amazon was having a moment. So he closed the tab and kept moving on with his day. He didn't check the URL, and just as fast as he clicked, the thought was out of his head. That afternoon, he noticed his browser was acting a little bit weird, a bit slower than usual. Gmail took a few extra seconds to load. Then Chrome froze during a tab switch. Not for long, but long enough that he noticed. He restarted the browser and it was acting normal again, so he just went on with his day. Over the weekend, his phone battery started draining faster than normal, but he figured maybe it was just one of the apps that updated. He downloaded a few new ones, and probably something was just syncing in the background. Monday came around with back to back meetings, shared docs from other members in his department, Slack pings, all the normal stuff. That night, after his therapy session, Matt sat down and opened his notes. He didn't journal every week, but when he did, it helped clear the static. It wasn't deep analysis, just private reflections. Sometimes he left sentences half finished. Sometimes he'd just delete everything before even reading it. Tonight, he typed, I think I pretend to be fine so no one checks in. It's easier to stay invisible than admit that I'm really underwater. Then he closed the tab and just left it there, as usual. The doc autosaved to his Google Drive like it always did. He assumed it stayed there, like it always had. But this time, it was different. A few days after Matt clicked the link, he got one of those new sign in alerts from Google, the kind that pops up if someone logs into your account from a weird location. This one was flagged in Kansas. Matt lived in Ohio. He chalked it up to Google being dramatic. He thought maybe it was his phone bouncing off a tower, or maybe the VPN that he used for work screwed something up. Either way, nothing looked off in his inbox, so he just kind of ignored it. He didn't change his password, didn't enable two-factor authentication, didn't even think about it again. A day or so later, he noticed something strange in his Gmail. One of his drafts was starred. Not unusual in itself, except this one was completely blank. No subject, no content, and it was time-stamped at 2 a.m. He didn't remember starting a new draft. Probably something he opened and abandoned on his phone. That kind of thing did happen all the time. So he deleted it without thinking. Then Gmail prompted him to re enter his password mid session. No explanation, just kicked him out. He typed it back in, annoyed but not suspicious at this point. Google did that sometimes. Annoying, but still, he didn't see it as a red flag, although he should have. That Thursday morning, his therapist forwarded him an email. The subject line read, Did you mean to send this? The body was short. She said a document had been shared with her early that morning. It came from his Gmail address. She hadn't opened it, just in case it wasn't from him. Matt, again, clicked the link. It opened to a Google Doc. His title, his formatting, his voice. Except this wasn't the version that he had in his drive. This was everything. Dozens of entries pulled from months of therapy notes and private reflections. It had been cleaned up and edited into a single, neat, readable file. He immediately checked his sent folder. Nothing there. Checked his drive activity log. No recent shares. No sign anything had been moved at all. So he ran a virus scan. Came back clean. The document hadn't been created by him, but it had absolutely come from his account. Matt called a friend who worked in InfoSec and walked him through the situation. Matt paced around while his friend talked. The two of them had gone to college together for business, but Kyle had taken a hard turn into cybersecurity a few years back, and now he worked for a fintech startup that took threats very seriously. After a few minutes of questions, Kyle asked quietly, Have you logged in on any sketchy public Wi-Fi or opened anything weird lately? Matt explained what happened with the Amazon email, but none of the usual signs of a break-in showed up. There was a pause on the other end. Then Kyle asked, Do you still have that email? Matt didn't. He deleted it the day it came in, and the trash had already been auto-cleared. That's when the conversation stopped being casual. Kyle sighed. Okay, so here's what probably happened. He walked Matt through it slowly. Phishing doesn't always mean a fake login page. Some of these emails drop malware directly into your browser when you click. No download prompt, no visual file. Just a tiny script running in the background that opens a window they never close. Matt asked, so did they have my password? No, that's the thing. They didn't need it. You were logged into Gmail at the time, so it's likely that they jumped into the passenger seat while you were still driving. They rode your session. They had everything you had: your inbox, your drafts, your drive, all of it. Matt sank into his chair. Kyle kept going, not to scare him, but to help him understand. These kinds of attacks are cheap. You can buy toolkits for this on Telegram or shady forums for like 30 to 40 bucks. It's plug and play malware. You don't need to be a hacker. You just need a victim who's logged in and a browser that's open. And the doc, Matt asked, they just rewrote it? Could be automated, Kyle said. Some of those kits come with text harvesters. They pull keywords, clean up grammar, and make it look polished. Or it could have been manual. Could have been someone just messing with you. You may have just been targeted, target number 4 out of 20. Matt felt his stomach tighten. So, what do I do now? Kyle didn't answer right away. Then finally, start over. Log out of every device, reset your passwords, revoke every OAuth permission, turn on two-factor authentication, use a different browser profile for sensitive stuff, and get a malware scan that goes deeper than whatever antivirus you're currently using. Matt just nodded with his eyes on the floor. He always assumed that Gmail was safe, Google was secure, and his drafts were private. Now he wasn't sure where that assumption came from to begin with. Matt spent the rest of the day in cleanup mode. Kyle guided him through logging out of every session in Gmail. He showed him how to sever some of the hidden threads that tie all of Google's ecosystem together. They cut access to some random services that his Google account was attached to from who knows when. Then they deleted a few browser extensions he forgot installing. After that, they moved to his phone and revoked app permissions, dozens of them, some he didn't even recognize. And then they deleted apps that he hadn't used in years. Then they moved on to changing his passwords. Then they changed them again. Then enabled two-factor authentication. Not the text message kind, but with a hardware key his IT friend walked him through. He ran a malware scan with a real tool this time. It found issues buried deep in a hidden folder inside the browser profile. Harmless looking files with names like update and service task. Plot twist, they weren't harmless. He didn't go to work the next day. He said he was sick, which wasn't exactly a lie. What really got him wasn't just that someone got into his account, it was how normal the whole thing felt. There was no moment where the alarms went off, no screen flashing red, just little things that he now realizes should have been obvious. Slower tabs, the weird blank draft, the login alert that just looked like annoying enough, but he ignored it anyways. They didn't take his money. They didn't steal his identity. They didn't lock him out. They just quietly mirrored him. And then they used what they found to remind him he wasn't nearly as private as he thought. He thought about the doc that was shared with his therapist. It hadn't been altered in any dramatic way, just a quiet, accurate mirror of what he'd written. It wasn't a hack, it was a reminder. Someone had been watching, and they wanted him to know it. That weekend, Matt started scrubbing his online footprint. Closed a lot of old accounts. He switched email providers and moved a lot of things off the cloud. He felt like someone who'd just discovered that there were cameras in his house the whole time. But the worst part, he realized most of his digital life, like his banking, his work files, his personal writing, the therapy notes, were wrapped up in one email account, one browser session, one login. And for weeks, someone else had been living inside it like it was theirs. So let's talk about what really happened here, because this wasn't some high level breach or nation state cyber attack. It was basic, boring, but incredibly effective. Matt clicked on a phishing email. That's it. Didn't ask him to log in, didn't trigger a download, just ran code quietly in the background. And that code likely did one of two things. So, first, it could have been what's called a browser session hijack. Basically, it stole Matt's session cookies. This is the digital token that proves to Gmail, hey, this person is already logged in. They're authenticated. With that token, the attacker didn't need his password. They just copied his authorized identity, logged in from somewhere else, and started digging. This method is cheap, fast, and almost invisible. The second option would be browser-based spyware. The attacker injected malicious scripts into his browser profile, files that live in the background, capturing activity across tabs. This includes emails, document content, and saved passwords, or even keystrokes if the script goes deep enough. These tools don't trip normal antivirus scans. They don't show up in your extensions list. And once they're in, they virtually act like you because to the system, they are you. So you might be thinking, geez, why didn't Matt notice any of this? The answer is phishing doesn't always look like a scam. That email you clicked, probably bought off Telegram or one of the hundreds of malware kits floating around the dark web forums. Most of these kits are plug and play. You don't need to be a hacker to use them. You just send the email and wait for someone like Matt, who's busy and trusting, to do the rest. And that therapy doc, that's the real chilling part. It most likely wasn't targeted. It may have been one of several files pulled from his account and forwarded as a sort of flex. Or it could have been an automated scare tactic built into the malware. Some of these tools scrape keywords, auto format documents, and send them as a part of a psychological reveal. This isn't done to steal or scam. Some of these cyber criminals just do this to just show, hey, we were here. What are you going to do about it? Here's the thing that may seem sort of counterintuitive. Not every cyber criminal wants your money. Some just want your attention. And others, they want to control you. This is less about simply stealing data and more about shifting the power dynamic. When an attacker sends your private files back to you or shares a document you never intended to be seen, they're not just proving they got in, They're saying, you didn't notice, we've been watching, and now you know your move. Cybercriminals do this for a few different reasons. So, first, there's something that's known as controlling through shame. They don't need to lock your files, they don't even need to demand a ransom. All they have to do is reveal that they've seen something personal. In this case, it was a journal or therapy notes. It could even be your saved photos, and conveniently for them, your mind just does the rest. It's like someone breaking into your house. They don't steal anything, but they rearrange all your stuff. And when you walk in, you feel like something must be missing, but you can't tell what. All you know is someone was there, and now you feel super violated. Another reason could be to show off. On these Telegram and cybercrime forums, some of the attackers share screenshots of their victims' accounts, like emails, cloud files, or chats, as some sort of trophy. It's a flex. It's like social proof to other cyber criminals that their tool worked or that they owned a real person. It's not always specifically about money. Sometimes it's about status in a very messed up ecosystem. Lastly, they use it as a scare tactic. As I mentioned, some of the malware now includes what some call scare scripts that do things automatically once access is gained, like sending a copied document to a contact or changing a file name to a smiley face or something weird. Or they could insert a message into a document saying, "We read this." It's not technical sophistication, it's psychological disruption. Here's a few real examples. So, corporate espionage tools often include this tactic. They leak a sensitive file just enough to let the victim know that they've been infiltrated. Microsoft was a victim of this a while back, where a hacker had posted a screenshot of some source code that they'd been able to exfiltrate. No ransom was requested. Then there's things called creeperware or stalkerware. This will sometimes trigger subtle notifications or changes in a device to let the target know that they've been watched. Not because the attacker wants to be caught, but because they want the victim to just spiral out on their own. Then we have notorious APT groups or advanced persistent threats. Particularly, these are mostly state sponsored ones. Sometimes they do this for fun, for revenge, or to demoralize their target before an actual attack. The psychological goal is simple: make you feel unsafe in a system that you thought you understood. They don't need to take control of your life. They just need to make you question who else already has. Here's the part that matters: what steps that you can take to protect yourself. Matt's story isn't rare or even unusual. It's standard operating procedure for phishing kits in 2025. But there are ways to protect yourself, and they don't require a computer science degree or even going full paranoid bunker mode. So, first, and maybe most important, I can't believe I still have to say this, but don't trust the email just because it looks quote unquote normal. Attackers aren't sending easy to spot cartoonish scams anymore. They're sending near perfect replicas of brands that you already trust. So here's what you can do: always hover over links before clicking them. Look at the domain. That's the part of the address that would be whatever platform.com. So something like amazon.receipts/alerts.ru, definitely not from Amazon. And if you're unsure, definitely don't click the link. Go directly to the site for yourself. Go to your account and see if there are any purchases in your history or whatever it is that the email is referencing. And you can always use a free tool like virustotal.com. This will help you check those suspicious links to see if there's anything sketchy going on. So you just go over to virustotal.com and enter in the search bar, and the platform will tell you with pretty solid accuracy if the link is associated with any flagged domains. They work with around 80 or so different antivirus platforms and malware platforms, as well as threat researchers to stay very current on threats. And with this tool, you can also check suspicious files there too, not just URLs. Number two, use session isolation for sensitive accounts. So one of Matt's flaws here was he had everything, his email, his cloud storage, and his notes open in the same browser session. That made him basically a sitting duck. So here's what you do to get around that. You want to start using separate browser profiles or even different browsers entirely for things like all your sensitive stuff like banking and whatnot. So a few good platforms for this would be Firefox, Brave, or Vivaldi is actually really great for offering containerization, which adds another layer of separation to help prevent things like this. For some higher risk users, consider using a virtual machine, um, local containers, or isolated browser sandboxes for anything that's tied to your identity or money. This can ensure that your profile isn't wrapped up in one neat little package for cunning attackers. Number three, you want to use two-factor authentication, but you got to do it in the right way. If you're still using text messages for two-factor authentication, you're basically not using two-factor authentication. You're just making the work of the hackers a little bit longer. So what I suggest is using an app-based authenticator. So if you're on Android, a good one for this would be Aegis. That's Aegis. There's also Duo Mobile, which is good for iPhone users, or there's 2FAS, which is applicable for basically anybody. Microsoft and Google obviously have their own authenticator apps, which are widely used, but with their obvious ties to those ecosystems, I would urge you to use caution before choosing those. A more advanced method, which I mentioned in our story today, would be to use a hardware security key like YubiKey, which follows the something you have principle of authentication. Number four, you want to clean up your account permissions. This goes for any linked accounts, but especially if you must use the Google ecosystem, this is a must. You'd be surprised how many third-party apps still have access to your Gmail, your Drive, and your calendar. So, what do you do specifically if you need to use Google? Go to your Google's App Access dashboard and revoke anything that you don't recognize or use anymore. You want to do this every few months or so. It takes 5 minutes and it cuts off all those old backdoors. You want to do this on other platforms as well. I've mentioned before, you know, you can log in with Facebook or any of those things. All of those apps are going to be continuously having access. So check your social media, your banking apps, or anything else that's connected to multiple platforms that are going to be sharing your data. Number five, you want to scan for browser level malware. So Matt's antivirus didn't catch the infection because it lived in his browser profile. It wasn't technically on his computer. So what can you do? You want to use a tool like Malwarebytes, Bitdefender, or ESET Online Scanner. They go deeper than that built-in stuff. Afterward, consider resetting your browser profile and reconfiguring from scratch. Annoying? Yes, but it will get rid of any of those hidden scripts. If you want to check out any of the tools that I've just mentioned, I will leave links in the show notes so you can go check them out after the video. And finally, number 6, you need to understand that privacy is not the same as security. So in our story today, Matt thought that his Gmail drafts were private. And in a sense, they kind of are until someone got into his account. Just because something is behind a password doesn't mean that it's 100% protected. So what do I suggest? First, treat most of your cloud platforms like public storage with locks on them, not vaults. Now, there are some really great platforms out there that are going to be more secure than others. If you'd like to know which ones, again, I'll have a few listed in the show notes that I would recommend. And if you have things that you truly do not want shared, keep it local, keep it encrypted, and keep it offline. So this sounds like a lot, I know. And you may want help putting these into action. If you're sitting there thinking, okay, I get it, but where do I actually start? My Digital Privacy Toolkit is a system that I built to help people with that exact question. It's an easy to follow roadmap to get you from A to B in the shortest amount of time without all the guesswork. I put everything you need together in one place so you can take action right away. Inside, you're going to get a personal cybersecurity checklist so you know exactly what to lock down first and why. You also get home network security tips that actually apply to the devices that you already own. You get a data privacy guide to help you take control of who sees what. You're going to get smart, practical settings for social media privacy. Yes, even Instagram. A full opting out of data brokers guide because most people have no idea that their info is being sold all the time. And they also don't know that they can do something about it. Finally, you get a step-by-step identity theft prevention guide. So why do you need all this? Well, the toolkit is proven to build a layered level of security that can help prevent identity theft. You're going to learn how to reclaim your data that's being used to profile you. And finally, you'll get some peace of mind knowing that your digital life isn't wide open anymore. So if you'd like to get your own toolkit, check out the link that I left below in the show notes. All right, so let's recap real quick. Matt didn't get hacked because he was being reckless. He got hacked because he was normal and predictable. This is exactly what attackers count on. He clicked a familiar looking email and he trusted that his Google apps were private. And he didn't notice the red flags until it was way too late. This, unfortunately, is how it happens. Not with some dramatic, over the top movie style heist, but with a tiny crack in a system that you assumed was safe. If there's one question that I want you to sit with after this episode, it's this: how much of your digital life do you just assume is secure? How many accounts, passwords, and devices do you use every day without ever questioning who else might be inside with you? Leave a comment or a reply. I want to hear how you're thinking differently after this one, and maybe what you decide to change first. And if you want to stay ahead of things like this, not just react to it, consider joining my exclusive Firewall Insider community. When you sign up, you're going to get immediate access to the Firewall Report, which is my app that gives you real-time alerts on cyber threats, data breaches, device vulnerabilities, and identity theft risks. You also get a digital copy of the No BS Guide to Securing Your Network, which is an in-depth but easy-to-follow guide to get enterprise-level security at home. It's perfect for remote workers or digital creators. You also get weekly members-only content packed full of value and putting you on the cutting edge of cybersecurity and data privacy. Finally, you're going to get 20% off every digital product and workshop that I offer, especially my latest one, the Digital Detox Clinic. If you want to know more about it, you guessed it, check the show notes. This community of over 100 members was built from the ground up for people who want to stop feeling exposed and start taking control. So join us today by going to beyondthefirewall.substack.com/insider. This may just be the best decision you make today, other than joining me for this podcast, of course. And join me tomorrow. It's Guest Post Tuesday. And I'm featuring an author that is relatively new to Substack. And she's sharing a personal story with us that really drives home some of the dangers the younger generation faces when navigating the new technology-driven world. It comes out tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and you don't want to miss it. Okay, everyone, that's it for today's show. This has been the Privacy Files. And as always, until next time, stay informed, stay secure, and stay curious. Have a safe and private week out there.